When you think of Capella University today, you have to view its history. When it took on the offering of a PhD, all master's degree students came after this degree because of its ease, supposedly, of doing an online degree. They never expected that the degree did not exist. They never expected that there were unqualified and untrained faculty. They always expected to do plenty of work, individual, guided by trained persons work. They never expected to fail. You do not fail A students. How can you trust this university? What's changed? Who's held them accountable? When you go to all these agencies expecting that they are going to step up to their job, and they fail time and time and time again, and they pass the buck. And now we have a chance. Now, because of persons like at the CFPB, like Seth Frothman, who actually is defending students. And now, because of Senator Harkin's report, at least it's on the table that all these for-profit universities have harmed their students. And maybe we're more aware now, but someone has to protect us. Someone has to protect the student. And if it's not going to be the U.S. Department of Education, for example, Secretary DeVos, because it's not, then okay, the answer is charter schools. And in my feelings, there is nothing better than a public school system. There is nothing more opportunistic, creative, anything you want to say about a public school system. I went to Catholic school. I never took gym. I didn't take music. There wasn't any. Okay? I was, I can see and desired to go to the public school all my life. This group that we need to help with my PhD are those low economic status who can recover. The kids at home who are not reading, who have to read now because of the coronavirus, we can recover. There are 8,000 to 10,000 PhD students out here with all of that offering that need to be recovered. And I want to know who's going to do it. It's got to be the Minnesota Office of Higher Education for this case, and it's got to be finished now and addressed by the Minnesota AG office. And thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to try to keep it simple, but it isn't simple. So I'm representing 53 other people, and this includes 8,000 to 10,000 other students, and they're all PhD students. And they started at Capella, and I've been seeking justice for them for 8 years now. And I started in 2012, or I ended with Capella in 2012, and I started going with a group of 53, trying to get justice for what happened to us. So, but I want to say something. I'm really glad that you're there, because if you were not there, who would have heard this? I have been working I started with many organizations. I started with the Higher Learning Commission, the North Central Division of the Higher Learning Commission, with the problems that I was having with Capella. And they took this project on for 2 years, and they listened to me for 2 years, and then they just dissolved the division. They got rid of the division. The North Central Division disappeared. So all my 2 years of work disappeared with this person that I worked with in their legal department. I worked with Senator Collins for that same time period, and she supported my work with the Higher Learning Commission. But when the NCA disappeared, Susan Collins was like, okay, Deb, what's going on? I said, I'll get back to you. So then I went to the, who did I do after that? CFPB, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. And the Consumer Financial Connection Bureau listened to me for 2 years. And they accumulated my documents. I'm trying to find my list. They accumulated my documents. And then Commissioner Cordroy disappeared because he was replaced with another gentleman. And then finally, Seth Frothman took over. And Seth Frothman has done an incredible job now with the student protection. But it's now, okay? I'm talking about starting this thing in 2012 with the complaint. And now there's something in place. And we went to Secretary DeVos, and Secretary DeVos kind of shut us down. She sent us over to the Office of the Inspector General of the DOE, and then she shut them down. So they sent 10 pounds of documents over to the CFPB again. So the CFPB by this time had 15 pounds of my evidence, okay, in U.S. mail, because everything I do is in paper. And then it went to, after nothing could be done with them, because it's right now with the FTC, Federal Trade Commission, the CFPB sent the 10 pounds and the 10 pounds from the OIG over to them, the FTC, who's holding on to evidence for us, but they have no record of it. So I'm just letting you know. So then I went back to the Minnesota Office of Higher Education, where it began, because it happened in Minnesota, because Capella University is located in Minnesota. And they started accumulating some documents in 2012 for us, and then they stopped with that because it was about the program. And that's what I was complaining about, was the program. And then they referred us to the student borrower's defense. And the borrower's defense made no sense to me. Here we are, PhD students. In order to get here, we have to have a master's degree. We have to have a 3.0 GPA. Have to. Before we even put in the first day of an application. And then, so you've got A and B students with a 3.0 or better who know how to work alone. They've already got a master's degree. And we start working at Capella for a PhD. It's not a problem to do independent work. We're used to this kind of stuff. We're a little more mature than the average, and we're looking for a responsible opportunity to release new research into the world. And that's how we change America. That's how we help public schools. That's how we do all this with PhD-based research. Anyway, Capella was not prepared to take on any PhDs. The program did not exist. Didn't exist. They had the first part of it. They had the regular classes. They had set up. This is all, now Capella is a wholly online university. But to my knowledge, I don't know of any other universities that really offer a PhD online. I'm just suggesting that. I think I did a little research. There is something coming out now, but very few of them. For the reason that it has to be well mentored, and the research has to be discussed, and it has to be continuum, and it has to be with the right professor, and it has to be somebody that understands what you're doing. Anyway, so Capella took this on. They opened their new school. I think originally it was called American University in 1998. Then they took in PhD students, and they would have hit probably their dissertation somewhere around 2002. 2002, all these students start their program in there. And in 2012, out comes the report from the Health Committee, HELP, U.S. Senate, written by Senator Harkin, who identifies 35 for-profit universities who are raping America. And what they're doing is, or what they have done effectively to date and gotten away with, is they have taken all the federal student aid money of these students, and most of the ones that I work with or associated with or in representing the 53 have $200,000 debts, plus some of them are up to $300,000 right now because we've sit for 8 years. And on top of that, they have no degrees. So what it was is Capella had the first part of the conversation, the first part of the degrees. Okay, they had the regular classes, and this was on their software number, course room 1. Okay, and then they had all these adjunct professors. Adjunct meaning part-time, per diem, and that's what they do. They're part-time. They couldn't train them. They couldn't train them because they had nothing in place to train them. So they hired persons that were not qualified. They were not, in generally, PhDs, some were, but they weren't qualified to deliver on a wholly online platform. So they didn't train, and they didn't train, and they didn't train. Now, meanwhile, I've tracked all that with evidence that I sent to the Minnesota Office of Higher Education, because when they were supposed to be doing credentialing work and they stayed in contact with the HCL, they put out something called an action log. The action log shows they failed to teach these professors 7 times. There was no tracking from the HCL. Nobody in the NCA HCL was looking at it. Okay, they should have stopped them in 2008. And they should have said, you've got 5% of your population who are PhDs, and where is your training program for your qualified, which would mean they'd have to be a PhD or PhD. Where's your qualified, trained, part-time faculty, at least part-time? For this is a dissertation's a full-time job, but where's your part-time faculty? So what Capella did was they laid off 110 workers, and they were some of their faculty, and they rehired 65, and then they had to train them. Well, they used their students to train them. Okay, and that's a long story. I don't want to go into that yet. But anyway, the end of that story is nobody was looking. So what they did do, they were stuck. Capella was stuck. And the reason they were stuck is, what do we do now? Because we can't train these adjunct professors. Most of them are not PhDs, they're master degrees. So they shouldn't even be teaching master degrees. But, or they shouldn't be teaching PhDs, I'm sorry. And then we've got all these kids sitting there from 2002, and kids, I'm saying 40-year-olds, because I'm just saying, we got all these, young family people trying to become career, oriented in their new careers with new research for the world, and they're going to save the world with it. And my research was the solution to illiteracy. I can resolve illiteracy in 12 weeks, 15 minutes a day. And I proved it. But I didn't have access to complete the research. Okay? I had to do my dissertation 4 times. I had to write it over and over and over and over, because Capella was manipulating this group that I was in of PhD students, which was from a specific school. They were from the School of Public Service Leadership. They opened the school in this group in 2009. They hired 327 recruiters. 327 recruiters. They opened the school, and they probably brought in 500 PhD students, already into the chaos. They left the school open 2 years, and they closed it down. Now, this group of students are the ones that will develop the university faculty training group. They're going to use them. And then they're going to destroy them. None of these people, or very few of them, ever got a PhD. And this was proven with my evidence on the U.S. Help Senate Committee Harkin report on page 325, part 2, where it says, Capella, how many PhD graduates did you have in 2010? Now, the program's been open since 2000, let's say 2000, 10 years. There were 0 PhD graduates. 0. There were originally 10, or I think 5,000 going through that group prior to 2010. None of them graduated. 2,000 dropped out. They lost half. But see, no one saw this because it's only 5% of the population. They had 38,000 students. No one saw little 5%. Well, we're not going to look at them. Okay, the rest of the stuff is all on online courses. They're doing fine with their bachelor's. They're doing fine with their master's programs. But the PhD is getting corralled. From 2002, they just got put in a corral and held there until this one group of students developed the faculty training program for the entire 4 schools in the college university program. So effectively, my problem existed from 2002 to 2015. It is not the same today because we fixed it. We fixed it. This group fixed it. Okay? But what we fixed took time. What they did in Capella, we did everything on Course Room 2. That's gone. It's a software. It's gone. You can't find the problems because they don't exist. Capella had, 3 years retention? It's gone. I have all the documents sent to the Minnesota Office of Higher Education. We've been waiting for Betsy Talbot in that office. Now it's under Commissioner Olson. Before it was under Commissioner Pogmeyer when I started, in 2012. And they're still not doing it. They're passing the buck. They're still not doing it. They're not coming back with anything. They take vacations. They go to Christmas. In the meanwhile, these people that I live with, these 53, their student loans have gone from $200,000 to $300 and something thousand. They cannot get mortgages. They cannot live. They're getting their paychecks attached by Secretary DeVos. And this is not a borrower's complaint. We didn't do a thing wrong. Nothing. What I'm looking for is for the Minnesota Office of Higher Education to complete their investigation. I gave them 5 boxes of evidence. They tore the tabs and timeline off of, it took me 3 months to put these documents together. 3 months with tabs and timeline so they could see the progression of what happened at Capella to their students. The Minnesota Office of Higher Education destroyed the evidence by taking the timeline off, so they probably have a massive confusion there. I offered my help several times. I want them to do their job. The Minnesota OHE needs to finalize this investigation that they've held us at bay since May 10th of 2018. I want them to resolve this case for these 53 that have been waiting and that are deaf and dying right now. I want them not to have to be responsible as borrower's defense. We don't have to defend ourselves. But the Minnesota Office of Higher Education does. We also filed 25 complaints with the Minnesota Attorney General's office, starting with Lori Swanson, and she actually did something for us. She was very good. She wrote to, got, in contact with the Office of Higher Education in Minnesota and told them to do their job. But then she left office because it's an elected position. Keith, AG, everybody knows this name, Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison, who is now trying George Floyd's case, has gotten 25 of our complaints. And they are waiting, that's what we're told for 2 years now, 2.5 years, is that they are waiting for the Minnesota Office of Higher Education, and this is under Commissioner Olson now, in the office of Betsy Talbot, to finalize their investigation so that they can step in and take this on. The Minnesota AG said they will, as soon as they get an answer from the Minnesota Office of Higher Education, they will take this on. I don't know how much longer we have to wait, but it's way too long.